All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Beyond Baroque Literary Arts Center. Thank you for coming out on, is this Thursday night? My sense of time is all screwed up since the holiday. But thank you for coming out. My name is Quentin Ring. I am Beyond Baroque's executive director. And we have here tonight really what tends to be one of our favorite programs of the year, which is reading with What Press and Giant Claw. What Books Press, excuse me. What press are you talking about? Have you ever heard that joke before? What Books Press and Giant Claw. Really one of our favorite readings, as I said, every year we sort of have a collection of authors from both presses here, and we really just enjoy the evening. So we're going to get into that in just a second. But before I get started, we do like to acknowledge our presence here on Tongva land. Beyond Baroque acknowledges the wrong done to indigenous peoples through settler colonialism, genocidal practices, and the violent dispossession of their land. And as an arts organization, we are very much committed to uplifting indigenous narratives, communities, and their art. Beyond Baroque, as I think most of you know, is Los Angeles' oldest literary institution. We are finishing our 56th year this year. It's been a very eventful year, a very exciting year. I think we're ready for a break. We do have a few programs coming up that I want to highlight just before we slide into that break. Tomorrow, if you're interested in Venice history and community, we do have the launch of 100 Venice Stories. It's a collection by Jason Hill, who you may have seen online or in various media. He interviews notable Venice folks and does sort of an illustrated story of their life. And so he's launching a book of those interviews that he's done tomorrow here. It should be great. And then on Saturday, we have the 20th anniversary of Letras Latinas. National organization has done a lot of work to uplift Latinx poets and writers around the country, and so this is their final event of their 20th anniversary, so we'll have a one-poem festival. There will be 20 readers here, each reading one poem. It's a really great lineup, so I do encourage you to come back for that. And our last weekend of programming for the year is next week. We will have a workshop with Timothy Steele. If anybody's interested in sharpening their formalist chops, I think it's a great workshop to come to. And then we will also have The Writing Life, our launch of The Writing Life, which is a book that's been long gestating at Beyond Baroque. It was originally planned during our 50th anniversary, now it's 56. But it's a collection of writing prompts and stories about Beyond Baroque. It's kind of our end of the year party. It's a bit of a community space. We'll have a few readers, we'll have some food, and it's just a way to celebrate the year and the community. So please do come back from that a week from Saturday. And check out our website. We have a few other programs coming up as well. I would be remiss, given it is the end of the year, if I did not say we really do depend on the support of our community. A lot of you are members here who are here tonight. We are in the midst of an end-of-the-year fundraising campaign. We would like to be able to raise $45,000 by the end of the year. We've made some good progress on that. But if you are able to give to become a member, it costs as little as $60 if you're a senior, $75 is a regular membership. We have levels above that as well. I think we are probably going to have to start charging more next year, given the way the general funding for the arts is going. So if you become a member, you will be able to get into our events for free. And you'll get a discount in our bookstore. If you're at a certain level, you get a discount in our workshop. So please do consider becoming a member. For those of you who are, thank you. We really appreciate it. This building is 18 years old at this point, and it requires a lot of upkeep. So your money goes to supporting that as well. But if you really want to support Beyond Baroque and our authors, I really encourage you to buy their books. I'm sure they will be willing to sign them. Rod's going to be talking about each author, and I think has the books to show to everyone. So please do see Pablo in the bookstore afterwards, buy some books, enjoy the evening. But I think aside from that, we should just get to the readings. Our usual MC for the What Books Press, am I saying that right, Karen? And Giant Claw. Is Gail Ronsky. She's unfortunately sick tonight, but I'm really pleased that we have Rod Valmore here, really wonderful author from What Books Press, and he's going to take you away through the evening. So thank you all so much for being here. I really appreciate it, and enjoy the reading. Thanks.
Well, first, thank you, Beyond Baroque. This is fantastic to have us here. We're always so happy to be part of this scenario. And my job is to introduce the authors tonight. I'm going to begin with Paul Lieber. Is that Paul there? Yes. The lights are so blinding. The limelight that I'm in right now. There's so much to say about Paul beyond poetry. First of all, he's a teacher. He does some of the poetry workshops here at Beyond Baroque. He has taught creative writing at Loyola Marymount. I didn't know that. And he also produces and hosts Why Poetry on Pacifica Radio. No longer. Okay. Former host. All right, I'll cross that out. But let's talk about Paul Lieber, the poet. First of all, he has already published a book with What Books Press some years ago in 2020. That's this one, Interrupted by the Sea. Very nice collection that we were proud to present to the world. And tonight, we're honored to be the publisher of his third book of poetry. He had one, but you had one before What Books, right, Paul? Yes. And so his second book of poetry is Interrupted by the Sea, and his third collection of poetry is this one, debuting this year, Slow Return. And I'm going to tell you what Jim Natal, who is Jim Natal? Poet. A poet, okay, sorry. I'm going to tell you what Jim Natal has... Your uncle has to say about the new book. Quote, "It is poetic portraiture and personal narrative of the best kind. Scenes and characters, some famous, some infamous, from a specific time and place, a specific history. Mindsets, memories, and events come alive in poems that promise to stay with you, move you in the here and now." Here's Paul.
Can't see a fucking thing. Hi. So this book was inspired by this book. This is a book of photographs, and is responsible for this book. And it's the photographs. I looked at one photo and started writing, and then looked at another and started writing. And the result is this. And to paraphrase Robert Duncan, and David St. John probably will correct me, is the world speaks to me and I speak back. Well, this book spoke to me and I spoke back. So let's begin with A Slow Return, which is the name of the book. And the photos, a slight description of the photo is in the book, in the back, in the index. Slow Return. I'm trying to be able to see. And this takes place in Tompkins Square Park, which is, do people know where Tompkins Square Park is? Yes. You do? Yes. No. I heard 5 yeses and 2 nos. It's in New York. It's a park on the Lower East Side, and it's been through different demographics and different changes. And this is a poem that takes place there. Slow Return, covered with snow. The swerving walkway, semicircles and bare trees, stripped, weather-beaten. A peopleless photo, a eulogy to the park minus concerts, murders, gangs, homeless, and the celebrations. Allen Ginsberg lived on its border, the 10th Street side. Kristen Linkletter, a voice teacher, walked on my back in her ground floor apartment on the Avenue B side. We weren't intimate, the park and I, until I collapsed on its bench coming down from LSD. It was then it held me in its bosom, rocked me between A and B, softly chanting, "You belong, sit as long as you like, until the trees are trees, the leaves, leaves, and people, just people, until everything settles back into its name." This is a request. That's the name of the poem. I'm not asking anything of you until after the reading. A request. Tennessee Williams looks to his left. Our eyes shift to the right. The gaze of a skeptic. Is he glancing at Ruth Steffen or beyond? His tie swerves, uneven creases in his forehead, his left cheek in shadow. It's the side of the cheek I kissed. Oh, no, it was the left side of the neck. When I told him I acted in his plays, he asked, "Where, in class?" I said yes. And then Tennessee asked, "Why the hair?" My friend Wally explained, "Paul is in the play Lenny." Tennessee turned his head slightly, said, "Kiss me," pointing to the spot. I aimed my lips for Laura, for Tom, for Blanche, her wounds, for Amanda. I planted the kiss for Stanley, for Brick and that clique he welcomed when he drank. I kissed him for the Bronx I deserted, but like St. Louis for Tom, we were both drawn back. I kissed him because he asked me. I kissed him for a play he hadn't written yet. Everybody knows who Tennessee Williams is, right? Otherwise, it's just a fucking guy in the block, you know? Let me see, I have the pages here. Okay, this is called Four Photos on the Church of the Church Disco on page 42. It's the only poem in here that actually has where it is in the book of photographs. I don't know why that is, but it is. For rich hippies, out-of-work royalty, where my girlfriend worked the coat room. Garments were left, forgotten and retrieved by her for me. Like that suede dungaree jacket, a smooth cream-colored affair, and how I fell for a blue navy turtleneck. This girlfriend later changed her name, became a Sufi, and her guru revealed I had killed her in a prior life. Heaved a stone at her head on an unnamed beach. And when she shared this murder, I had no recollection, but apologized, as I had for many things in this life. Here, the females at the church on April 24th, 1969, are dressed with whips and chains, one with a bikini bottom, another bald-headed with a braided wig. There's one in an unassuming dress, with half-exposed breasts exposing me to my desire. And yes, I might have asked her to dance on April 24th, 1969, in my suede jacket and blue turtleneck, while Joan was still Joan and working the coat room. I worked with autistic kids for a while. One girl, I woke up in the morning and I put her to bed at night. Everybody was afraid of her. But I wasn't. And I spent the summer with her. And this is a photo of Willowbrook, which was a big scandalous thing. It was I guess you'd call it a hospital for, they called them retarded. It was, everybody was lumped in one category. It would have been schizophrenics or just deprived there. It was kind of a horrible situation, and it was scandalous, and it was revealed. And that was a photo of it. Hollows, where the deprived are deprived. One naked sits on a chair with his legs crossed, another finds peace and sleep in the corner. A boy contorts in a yoga-like pose. It's the destination for the forgotten, for those who can't dress themselves. A girl outside the frame screams and bites, her knees and wrists. Her name is Cindy. She has 3 different voices. All originate from the stains and grime that cover the walls. All are ominous. Now she rocks back and forth to the lullaby she never heard. She finds comfort in her sway. The residents in the lower photo lie down with a camera above to shock us into legal action. The bones of these infants could have been shipped from Buchenwald. The pencil-thin legs reveal starvation. You can see below the skin into the hollows. Stop and weep a few moments, and then return. Return to the boy's face, who looks like I did as a boy. Okay, this is about Timothy Leary. Everybody knows who Timothy Leary is, right? No? Excuse me, I'm going to burp. I don't want to do it in the mic, you know? There are some limits. Stage light. Tim greeted me at Millbrook, his LSD farm in New York. And he stood like a waspy god in sandals, as friendly as a senator, and he had my teenage vote. At the Fillmore, I watched him describe playing baseball, how acid slowed the pitch, and in the stitching of the ball, he found the history of the game, contemplated the piece it embodied, the angles it celebrated, and he had time to reflect on the Big Bang as he swung his bat with perfect timing and swung his bat in harmony with the rotation of the planet, and with his swing, creation was explained and so much more. Mic in hand, legs nearly crossing, Allen Ginsberg to his left, while bombs dropped on Cambodia, Laos, Vietnam, and darkness in the photo, except for them. How are we on time? How are we on time? Anybody? Is he here? How are we doing? What? Doing great. Doing great. Okay, this is Breeze. Hare Krishna. I don't know if you remember. All the photos take place in the 60s and the early 70s. And Hare Krishna, if you were in New York, they'd grab you. I mean, they wouldn't grab you, but literally, but they'd grab you. This is called Breeze. They might show up on your street, swaying in a trance beyond the grip of self. They catch you on any corner and serenade. And I, too, would like to be enclosed in a song, a place without all the asking and reaching. I might shave my head, tap a drum, or shake a cymbal. Let the breeze run up my robe. Let years roll on as we orbit, never thinking of fame, mental institutions, the cower of my mother, just the encasement, the breathing. And I think I'll end with this one. It's a nice, morbid one that I'd like to leave you with. It's called As If. Do people know who Sal Mineo is? Oh, you do? Oh. That's a surprise. Okay. As if Sal Mineo with a cigarette hanging from his mouth in an unbuttoned denim shirt. Yes, the boy who died in James Dean's arms, the boy who followed him and Natalie Wood around, who stood for every kid who longed for good, cool parents. Sal said, "Hi, Paul." Sal Mineo said, "Hi, Paul." "Hi, Paul," shot out of celluloid, as if we were both in Rebel Without a Cause. Sal backstage said, "Hi, Paul," as if we were friends, as I left my dressing room. And although he was killed in the film, he seemed to be resurrected to greet me. Soon the police would arrive at the Morosco Theater on 45th Street, just west of Broadway. Surely they would shoot my brother Sal again, and then hopefully shoot me. Okay, I just want to explain. That was me though, years ago. Okay, I'm not suicidal at this moment. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Well, okay. I'm now going to introduce to you Holaday Mason, another gem of Los Angeles poetry. She's the author of several books, including a prize winner of the Dorset Prize, another one that won the Snowbound Prize. She also happens to be a portrait and fine art photographer, as well as a psychotherapist who runs therapeutic writing workshops that involve guided journeys into the worlds within the words. The words within the worlds. Her first book of poetry, she's an old friend of What Books Press. She published a book of poetry with us in 2018, does that sound right? 16, somewhere in there. The She series, a collaboration with another well-loved LA poet, Sarah McClay. And they worked on this together. And now she has one from us, and I should say from us, and that means from us as understood by our imprint. You can tell from the covers, and they're a little bit different. This is our imprint called Giant Claw Books. So her new book, As If Scattered, is here for us tonight from Giant Claw. And while I'm on the topic of covers, I should give a shout out and recognition and acknowledgement to our artist for all of our covers, Gronk, who's internationally renowned, and here they are. They're always beautiful to look at. Very lucky to have him as our resident artist. Now, here's what more can I say about As If Scattered? Nothing more than just to introduce Holaday and hear these poems.
Lieber's poems, and I'm really excited to be hearing everybody tonight and grateful to have this book, As If Scattered, on a Thursday night at 8:30. The book needs just a little exploration. Oh, Quentin, Evan, Jimmy, everybody here. Thank you so much for keeping this place not just alive, but thriving. And the new hearts beating in it. It's really, really something to see. This book needs a tiny explanation. It's composed of what I'm calling core poems and informal erasures, and they really are informal. And they are arranged as if in a translation where the erasure, which is the more intangible and ephemeral piece, comes first, because I feel like that's how the process of life is. We have the ephemeral, and then we come into form, and then we disintegrate, and that's what we are. The first part of the book are love poems, because I was blessed to fall in love as an elder, a senior, actual senior, Medicare senior. And then the next parts of the book have to do with how we care for our bodies and each other as we age, is, in my mind, utterly connected to how we care for the planet and our ecology. So I'll mainly read from the first part. I'm going to put myself on a stopwatch and keep the dishevelment to a minimum. Even though that can be charming. I'll read the core poem first, then the erasure, and I'll make a little in between and then just read straight through, okay? Ancient as always. Look how my hands are steady, not a shake yet, no tremor. The daylight arrives, reads the abacus. The eras behind are pentimenti. We are always almost old until we are in our perfect, impersonal homes of skin. So I protect this shared hydrangea bed where I count your vertebrae as if casting oracle runes, running my fingers over ancestral land masses of yarrow, goldenrod, where once you were a bearded god, a giant groundswell, my fighting companion with unassailable, perfect teeth and baritone growls. But now my gait, slower with my black oak cane, ensures I won't bellow, won't win the always war. Neither will you. Nobody does. The daylight arrives. My hands are a giant groundswell. I run my fingers over oracles. We are imperfect in our skin. Lizards are always dreaming. You're all the beautiful boys of youth, lying like lizards on granite grottos, warm and tan. The boys I never fucked, too pink and plump to be what they desired. You're honey crisp, not melancholy. So yes, I leapt over dread in my worn-out shoes, still good enough to go. You're not afraid of the lakeside charnel grounds in the cottonwood grove, crumbled with drought, scarlet foxgloves, bent and thirsty, where I scattered my dead, danced nude on their graves as a fisherman came with first light, threw out his line, never even saw me. But you see, and we listen as birds talk to trees, who talk to the wolves, who tell us their secrets. You're every beautiful boy of my youth, supple, easy, loose, muscled after swimming the rapids, and I composed dress in blood to bring you baskets of stars, every last one of them exploding. You're all the beautiful boys, swimming the rapids, never fucked too pink, Honeycrisp, nude at first light, when the birds talk to the trees. Neptune Corral. I have always had a weakness for beautiful dresses of flora, dusky silks, eyelet cottons, a closet of cravings no longer needed. The floors have grown so hard tonight, doorknobs gleam pewter and stormy, as if to say age can't be tidy. Your face, a planet above me in a lake of night. Rare rain scores the roof, curves and scratches against the windows, but I've drawn a strange horizon. The storm can't get inside the ring of beginning. Where we have time, we still have a little time left. I no longer quite gleam, have a weakness for the storm, the beautiful curves and scratches of beginnings. Operas can't be tidy. Monster considered. Thinking of God or something down here on the ground, I admit there is a monster in me. She lives in the dank under layers of silt, sloughed from untended years like old skin, petrified, surrounded by choirs of porcelain figurines, little tableaus of memories and ambitions, a company of still lives, still lives perfect as a stage set inside a snow globe, the collected works of parasols, flounced hoop skirts, hiding the handiwork of time, and under those lace dreams, my white burial mound. I can touch flocks of tattered butterflies, books of unused, disintegrated parchment. The monster flows over the arms of the chairs, powerless against creeping seasonlessness. There are things I think, and you don't want to know, things I have sometimes done. You would not believe what is in here. The White Mound, the book of untended years. Under those lace dreams, God or something. I can touch things you would not believe. Now I have a difficult choice to make. There's a poem that just scares the shit out of me. So I think I'll just fucking read it. Okay, I'll do this poem. It's a little bit long, and then close with one other, and look forward to hearing everybody else. It's a treat, and thank you. Empathy drawn on asphalt. This must be how my mother felt. A small, fragile world of swollen legs, fissures in vertebra, crumbled cervical, thoracic, Cossack, osteo, landslide, dissolved to the lowest point of gravity, the unclear vision waking up to hillocks of flesh, static within her mountain home, stratus clouds heavily clinging to topsoil, veils veiling the view of the elaborate tool of the sea. This must be how Mother felt, and envious too at times, with her unfulfilled visions of families at tables with fat turkeys, board games, candles splashing, homey light, domestically happy, without the frozen distances of long brood, anger, resentments, the injuries and subtle struggles for control. And perhaps this is how she felt as my brother, still just a child, stared at her body with jeering disgust. Maybe a smokescreen for longing or lust, but sneering nonetheless at her shape, her skin, her varicose veins, backlogged canals of blood tattoos that she bore from carrying first him, then me, my sole sibling who died alone in West Virginia in a trailer park transformed by death to an oxycodone pool of jelly on the floor, 20 guns in the safe, surrounded by his unseen, unshared tenderness, his own exquisite art. My morning, this morning, might echo one of Mother's, waking, bewildered, altered, vulnerable as an infant, solo in a crib, slowly unclutching legs, knees, hips, 10 fingers scanning memory's inventory to recall how once in angry impatience I'd grabbed her wrist too hard as she tried to turn the stubborn knob of my old gas stove, her arm like a thin neck, delicate as a baby bird. This must be how my mother felt when she learned she'd go deaf, the same quiet chill I felt when my third surgeon's face fell as he surveyed the x-rays, then me sitting on his table in my firm, young, yogini limbs with no clue at all of the distance between an idea and real life. This must be how Mother felt, walking the woods on her island, each hard step of her, my slow pace downhill, a souvenir of her steps as my morning course is crossed by cheerful, tan runners swarming past in packs, then 2 young men with their new digital camera sneaking a shot, because sure, I'm curious, with my black oak cane, oversized hat, red lipstick, slight limp with my long white hair, always looking down to watch where I'm going. Of course, they had to sneak a few shots, to which I had to say, I know, you just stole my image. And he tries to explain, but I already get it, so I don't demand a deletion because, yes, he could destroy the shot, but the action can't be reversed or returned, as I can never restore her to me, to brush her hair, make chamomile tea, scramble her eggs, and tell her at least one last time I am so very, very sorry. And I'll finish with this erasure. This vision is a blood tattoo. In the distance, the point of gravity is a smoke screen, an X-ray. Oh, souvenir of a baby bird, echo the quiet chill of the real life I can never restore. Thank you.
Thank you, Holaday. This is nice. It's a lot of work to put out these books. It's a press, and so there's printing and distribution and contracts and choices to be made. And yet, when you're here now doing all this and hearing them, it just makes it all seem so amazing, such a miracle that we managed to create all this. I'm really honored to be part of it. Our next author, well, we decided to give a little bit of a mix-up here and move from poetry to prose. So our next author is Tamar Perla Cantwell. And her fiction has appeared in journals and anthologies, including Illinois Review, the North American Review, Ascent, Monologues from the Road, and Secrets. She had a nonfiction essay as a finalist in the New Letters Literary Awards. And she also, I didn't know this, served as a writer in residence at the Jurassic Residence, a great writer's residence and artist residence up in the Bay Area. I've visited it. It's so beautiful there. She received her BA in English from the University of California, Berkeley, as did I, yay, both of us, and where she was fortunate to take a poetry class with the great Ishmael Reed. I didn't get to do that. I love Ishmael Reed. She received her creative writing, her MFA in creative writing at San Francisco State, where she studied with Molly. How do you pronounce that? Molly Giles. That's so cool too. I love Molly Giles. Tamar taught composition for 10 years in San Diego, California, where she now is living again. So we're very lucky to have Tamar back in the mix in Southern California. And here she is to read from her collection of short stories that we published, Romance World. Tamar Perla Cantwell.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. This was published last year, and I was still in Macon, Georgia, and now I get to be back in San Diego, so I'm just thrilled, and thank you to my friends and husband, and thank you for being here. And just, I want to say, it's just so exciting to be surrounded by words. I don't know, it's like music. It feels so good. So thank you to all my fellow readers. So I'm reading from my collection, Romance World. I'm just going to read an excerpt from a story called Triage. I bring the word love into my classroom. I make them read Madame Bovary, my classroom, and I do all the talking. They would skip Mrs. B altogether, but I want them to ask why she dies hard, why hers is a life worth examining. One girl tries valiantly, her effort as conspicuous as the monogram on her cashmere cardigan, and we find our way around words of relationship and property, a mention of Bronte, but it's always the details that get them down. They would kill Emma sooner to escape her, to get back to their own dramas. Just like her, they fear the deadening quality of their routines, and novels like this are too much work, too little distraction. Afterward, I stomp around with a chocolate chip scone, so over the expensive dry pastry and certain students, the emotionally barricaded back row sprawler with a shaved head and stepdad issues, the pen tapper who also pops his jaw obsessively, the effusive boy who rolls his eyes and hovers over occupied desks even after lecture has started. I hate myself for fighting them, but they pit their facts against my fictions, and I always come up wanting. I toss the scone in the trash and consider that my self-loathing is another reason for wanting Springfield, and so stubbornly the others before him. It is absurd what I'm wanting from Springfield. In bed, my bed, I'm falling over him like a lukewarm shower. I'm bringing words of love into the room, then trying to shake them off. Springfield, I say, whenever I talk about us and use the word love, you must insert the word having afterward and know that what I really mean exists somewhere between the two. He looks at me through half-opened lids and says nothing. I don't want to keep him forever. I don't want him to lock out his roommate so we can use their room for an hour. I don't want to lie on the sagging sofa bed, mattress coils abrading our backs and the moist eyes of used condoms, not all ours, squinting from behind pizza that has been congealing for days. I don't want to announce through stale, bong-infused air, Springfield, I'm going now, yet I do. I know what I want him for, and this can last only as long as class. He is generous and knows this and does his best, comes to me all appreciation and sometimes startled joy. He tells me sweetly that I will be okay. He says this like he knows how everything in the world works. In earnest professor mode, I ask myself, what am I teaching Springfield? Then I am distracted by his mint condition, the moment that hums in him. And I try to imagine his thoughts, from sleek cars to buoyantly cleavaged girls, to the bloody rigors of asphalt hockey, to purgatory versus limbo. I don't want to think about him, really. I just want to feel how good he feels. You seem distracted, he says, inside the moment. I love having you, I say. Before Springfield, there was JC, who liked to go to Vegas. He was tall and awkward and kind, with two older brothers who had paid their debt to society. An accident he would not discuss had skewed his face with a vertical scar from cheek to eyebrow. He was famous among instructors for his JC-isms. A scapegoat and foi de vivre were often repeated, and he insisted on wording his thesis statements as questions. In class, he participated strictly for laughs. I am down with Mr. B, but he is blind to the fact that his freak wants variety as any fine woodchuck would. He was half my age and reconditioning his term since his last college, where instead of studying, he grew abs and pecs and quads like some grow corn, beets, and squash. With JC, at least, I had no illusions. That is, after much contemplation, I thought in my head that I was sure I knew what I was doing. Now, dear students, which of these sentences is correct? It is a Thursday, late in the term, and Springfield wants to know why he didn't get an A on an obviously recycled essay. I want to know how we keep going, right through each stock market swindle, presidential rumpus, drought, epidemic, earthquake, invasion, canceled apocalypse. You don't have to love them all by yourself, Tallulah coos, passing me in the unhallowed halls. Perhaps I could help you. You're Benton Springfield. Isn't he missing his Misty Isle requirement? Besides, you don't like to keep them past a semester, do you? I decide to go to the midnight movie where I don't know what's playing until I get in line. It's the second adaptation of Lolita, and I wonder if any of my boys will show, but the clutch is mostly patched corduroy elbows, undyed hair, sensible shoes. Between handfuls of popcorn and hot tamales, I throb at first for Jeremy Irons and his piranha teeth, but soon I have to force myself to stay in my seat. Maybe you'll learn something, JC's voice echoes in my ear, and I suppose I might. Something about the kind of wanting that turns people into dust. I don't remember the novel taking this stance exactly. The film I watch isn't about grabbing at wrong things, but instead about how the grabbing itself goes wrong. Near the end, someone in the back row starts laughing. Head swivel, curious about the shameless perp in the shadows, but soon we understand that this is a woman who is sobbing uncontrollably. Even more than when little Lo writhed before us on nude Humbert's lap, we voyeurs stew in our discomfort. We pull on our coats as the credits roll and slink out the side door, scrupulously avoiding eye contact. Although now it is truly late, I walk through eucalyptus and step onto the porch of Handsome House, wait behind one of the Greek columns. I'm not really surprised to see Springfield emerge, a girl beside him. They reach for bags of food from a delivery guy. She's a pretty girl and blonde and barefoot. And when Springfield reaches out to playfully grab at her exposed, pale stomach, I see that her jeans are unbuttoned 2 buttons. I sit down next to the column and wait until the moon is fully visible, until I have enough light to see clearly as I untuck my sweater, my blouse. I place my hand upon the warm skin underneath. Sad it is my hand. It will be Christmas, and I could see him over the break. I lie and say I won't be around. I don't know where I'll be. It's all Gucci, Springfield says. I don't understand what he means. We're in our last days, and the weather's good. I keep repeating this like I'm looking for something I've lost. Isn't the weather good? And whoever happens to be there glances past me up at the sky and says, it certainly is. Back in my office, when I start giving the same C+ to every paper in the stack, I tell myself to put the pen down. But my hand is insistent, absent-mindedly doodling little tic-tac-toe boards in the margins, X's and O's. I apply thin ribbons of whiteout tape, stuff the papers in a drawer, and sit dazedly, staring at my own framed, bleary-eyed reflection in the glass of my degrees, when the door opens and next semester walks in. "What's up?" says the mighty Roland Manning. So many first years named like characters in novels they won't read. When Roland unbuttons my blouse, he acts with restraint, his choreographed fingers and lips moving in slow-mo. Confusingly, there is always a breeze lifting the dark curls of his pomaded hair. I find myself ripping off his clothes so we can get this skirmish started. Professor against student, the hegemony of experience and conviction over ignorance and lassitude. But I already know what will happen next. He will start to talk crit until I want to scream. I interrupt to get us something strong, and his a double, so he is soon overcome, passed out. In sleep, I recognize he is nowhere near grown up, that his job for a while is oblivious youth, to walk in front of my moving car with his earbuds in and his eyes closed and Baroque pop, trip-hop, arena rock ecstasy. And if I weren't his teacher, I'd be at a hotcake hut at 1 a.m, serving him and his drunk, laughing friends bacon with extra grease, and then getting up at 5 a.m. to work on my unpublished manuscript. No harm done. Thank you.
Thank you, Tamar. Well, going on here, we have another old friend of What Books coming up next. That would be Stella Hayes. I'll tell you a little bit about her background. She grew up in just outside of Kyiv, Ukraine. Later grew up more in Chicago and eventually ended up in Los Angeles. She earned an MFA in poetry from NYU, where she taught in the undergraduate creative writing program and served as poetry editor and fiction editor of Washington Square Review. Her work has appeared in Image, Poet Lore, The Poetry Project, Four-Way Review, Stanford University Press, and Spillway. She's also a contributing editor at Tupelo Quarterly. So here's where we get to What Books. Her first poetry collection, we're proud to say, came out from us. What Books? This is it, One Strange Country. And by the way, all these books are for sale out in the bookstore after the reading. So we didn't know who she was. Here comes this amazing collection of poetry, and now it's ours and hers. And this year, we are pleased to be the publisher of her brand new book, Father Elegies. And here's what the poet Cole Swenson writes about this book. The poems in Father Elegies are, quote, wonderfully sculpted pieces, formally and adventurously diverse, and remind us that we must all, sooner or later, leave the things we love, and they give us a tool for addressing that loss. Here's Stella Hayes.
Thank you so much, Rod. That was a great introduction. Okay. So this book is about my father. He died when he was 50 years old, and I was 14. It took me a lifetime to write it. I'm going to read from the afterwards to set it up a bit for you. On the anxiety of arriving at Father Elegies, the title for the book, honoring my late father and coming out with my secret shame. The book is a kind of thought experiment in my bringing my father to life, if only in these pages. I am acting against laws of the universe, an experiment carried out in thought only, against a strict focus, that which can be measured. Little is being measured in the book's imaginings. It is an unsatisfactory act of the imagination and will. It is re-experiences, re-experiencing, reloving, reliving, if only, in restricted form, in free form, the attack on form, the disillusion and disillusionment of form, out of time, and to no end. With only wound, misfortune, and despair, its three movements. The background is Russia. The poem is called Lenin. I pen my looming Russian letters, the letters surrendered to being letters, circling air, the page yielding to October 1917. Letters weighed in grams as valuable as bread, the architectural stature of Russian. It was the underglass held in a case, the folds of creases relaxed on the page. In cursive, under pseudonym of Jacob Richter, Lenin seeking admission to the reading room in the British Museum. Set out on a pilgrimage one summer, I went to end the stroll in the Parthenon reading room, bypassing the frieze and minor marble gods, pushing and showing through history, books thrown in the fire, generating little heat for the revolutionary lost in ink. Blotted out by history, the yoke is still a yoke, the hand that writes out its own destiny, claws linked to claws, as I wait for you to be mine again. Twilight of night. Hamlet speaks to the ghost of his father for advice to avenge his death. I want you to tell me how to live. It is twilight. Again, I'm without you. I used to hear footsteps, the echoing tremors of a barefoot stepping on a wooden floor, the house still as though it died, holding in breath, waiting for you to arrive. I want you to tell me that it matters that I'm waiting. I am the observer of all observers, the book of sonnets you left before you left. I have committed to memory. I have started rereading Shakespeare's sonnets. I am stuck on sonnet 97. I need you to tell me what they mean. And a companion poem. We are all actors on a stage stuttering before the curtain. I'm no Ophelia, my lord, falling before your feet for the common good. If only I could mark my body's vessel as my own, putting thee to shame, fair lord. And at times I am the fool, making myself a spectacle before the public square, always doubtful of what it means to be a woman in Byzantium, constituted of madness, a mind visited upon by a single ghost. In the distance, a mother, like poor sight, too close, fatherless. I am in my heart not speaking any language. I'm going to read a long poem. It's in 4 sections, and it begins with an epigraph? Whoa. That's not now. Epithets are later, off camera. The epigraph is from Franz Wright, and it's true I never write, but I should gladly die with you. 0. Deep in the nursery's, an accident of the imagination, as it's called. Deep in the nursery's flora section, I saw it. I would have missed its small forest imprint, its small beauty, how it made itself present in plain sight. In miniature splendor, it kept its interior from me. In my retelling, I am losing something. For so long I believed it was a rare flower my father let me discover for myself in a forest under mushroom and pine. In Kiev so long ago now, he brought the 3 of us on International Women's Day a spring flower gathered outside our backyard forest. He, a young father, gathering unsparingly, bright in my emptiness. 4 years before I was born, he was already sick. He fell asleep after dinner on the sofa watching TV. Often, when I would sneak up sneak up to him like a sentinel, with one ear to his heart almost sounding like mine. When I ran up the steps home after playing, it was beating. Sometimes I would check for his chest to rise up, like a lid on a pot, the same movement Margot and Finley's chest made when they were babies. All I cared about was for them to keep breathing, for them to survive babyhood. It's dark in my emptiness. To hold him, my brain grew, and it structurally can't hold him. When I was next to your heart, when I was a baby, and you're gone, and I have to live with that, and that you will never get to love Margot and Finley like I do. My brain grew out of you, and I can't forgive myself because I learned not to forgive from you. Who did you fuck on your trips to Bulgaria? Was it Maria with green eyes and a scar above her lip, or Masha with an afterglow of a rabbit, leaving a crater in the living room, Bella busting out in all directions, the mother of the womb, and on your return bring us Western gifts and deploy kisses like nuclear arsenal on your nuclear family. I hope the pleasure of polyamory eased your inconstant pain. The heart, loins, what does it matter? I don't care about your betrayal of my mother that much. You're my dad, and I know you didn't plan to die. I can't get over it. I have 3 people who I love with a terrible beauty, and of course Bella is living and I love God for that small kindness. The clerk whose earring dangled in despair on her ear, placed in the shallow part of my car 3 plastic containers of lily of the valley, the very spring flower that you told me was hard to cultivate outside a forest, in exile requiring canopy for shade. I dug 3 small holes with a bronze hand shovel, slipped in each a measuring cupful of ethically made organic soil, and planted the flowers. In pre-bloom, it took 2 years for the florets to break through and hold themselves up to light, and each spring I patrol my garden. I kneel to smell their unctuous perfume, and I leave them in soil and move on to something else to cut down and bring inside. Deep in my heart, we are home. I introduce you to my family. That's a hard one. I wish I could be a comedian and crack jokes, because I really want to write funny, but I can't write funny. I can only be funny, unintentionally, of course. People laugh at me. My children, most of the time. I always say, are you laughing with me, or, yeah. Okay. Let's see, maybe that's not gonna be, okay. Okay. This poem takes place in Chicago, and it's called Hand-Me-Downs. I don't remember being hung up on things. I'm going to reread that. I don't remember being hung up on his things. After all, like our things, they weren't his. They were handed down. Furniture, clothes, all the spoons and forks of the world having been dumped in our kitchen by a social worker from the Jewish Federation. They were hollow aluminum, lacking weight. They resembled us, and he was weightless, like he was already outside us, like he didn't require beautiful cutlery. Charismatic, well turned out, a handkerchief inside a coat pocket. Why would he need to look turned out, his body assuming 0 gravity? as if in preparation. He didn't want the whatever comes next. He was fine with the easy, the weighted, the weighed down world. The white plastic bag the nurse handed us with the clothes he wore that morning. Chicago, 1979. We spent a year in Chicago, our final destination with our father. I'm sure we ate a lot of McDonald's for good and bad reasons. I was learning English on the fly, Sanford and Sons, in cultural discordance and dissonance filled my afternoons. The troika of Three's Company taught me that desire can be made. In exile, father was obscured by his disease. He sold furniture for rubles with almost no value. Mother gave her collection away of the Russian canon to a good friend. Literature was eschewed, sent away like dissidents to the Gulag. I spent much of my time that summer away from mother at the local JCC swimming. I rode my bike to the lake in the afternoons. My mother couldn't manage dollars, half broken, half broke. My father, a refusenik, on trial in debate with death. He was acquitted of a crime he didn't commit. He made it out of a closed country, half alive, let go to die with us. A year and a half later, my mother was never barren. How am I doing on time?
Great.
Okay. I wish I could read something more upbeat. Well, actually, Death of Venice. To me, it's upbeat. I'm Russian, you know. Death and Venice, what could be better? I had to shield myself from beauty to survive it. Waverly, we made our way to Rome. Did I mistake our pause for holiday in Italy? I was a girl. I went everywhere she'd take me. On Saturdays to the Vatican, Rome's main post office, to collect letters for my father and mail our letters to him. After we left, he moved in with my maternal grandparents in Kiev for what fell to all palliative urgent care. Across the street, the 12th century cathedral kept to itself, shy in gilded theology. Her father, a decorated officer in the Red Army. Her mother cooked like a Michelin-rated chef. The three of them eventually ghost in gold relief. After dinner, my grandfather playing Schubert on the baby grand. My fiery, dangerous memories. Three objects of beauty. On the train back to our particularly, I'm going to reread that. On the train back to our practically priced apartment for Soviet immigrants, my mother read his letters like Pushkin's lovesick Tatyana. On that farewell night, she wrote Onegin her youthful, foolish love letter. I looked on and on moving grottos occupied by livestock, Italianate pastorals. Train travel bores and pains me. First, the monotony of thuds, jumps, like the needle off track on a vinyl record, skipping its way back on track. Second, the violence of parting, my father waving us off on a hill forever. Third, my entry through the train window to banality of family suffering, doing nothing especially special, waiting, waiting, waiting. Inside the Sistine Chapel, in the archipelago of theological and administrative buildings to the Vatican City, encountering Michelangelo's Last Judgment wall fresco up the steps inside the vault on a Saturday visit, my mother reassuring me that the suffering of the damned is a creative project. In the right corner, Charon ferrying the dead to the underworld. Would he take my father away, I wondered, denying a dying man's wish to be with family and friends? Was my mother hopeless? Did she believe this to be our only time together in Italy? I have been back a handful of times. At twilight by Margot, just two in the stroller facing Rome, pickpockets, bats above us, navigating down for prey. Behind the lip, Margot, untouched, safe with me. Was my mother afraid I would be stolen in plain sight, in daylight? How would she report me missing in the hysteria of Russian? She held on to my hand everywhere we'd go, like a pearl diver holds her breath deep underwater. My wish to be back with my mother on our Roman holiday while she still had the letters, while she stayed alive. It was on a trip to Florence. I was in love with my father. I am still in love with him. His love letters for us, my mother, in step with me, I dressed in flared denim, I guess like this, Roman gladiators sandals, my own copper hair in a standstill when I saw her rising out of the Uffizzi's marbled floor. I saw her as Botticelli, her maker, intimately, in The Birth of Venus. She invited me in, tenderly, at 10. I could see myself in her, alive, away from adult problems. Beauty saved me. A maiden, whoa, I don't want to start crying. It's the first one, okay. A maiden before the mark of puberty, small breasts on the rim of beginning of skin. The shell, her permanent room, porcelain and compact, like a woman's mirrored pressed powder case. Her dead hair pressed down, her voluptuous belly before puberty, before marked as someone's again. Before the fall, her copper hair covers her navel, the dream the museum visitors could not make overnight. She would do away with sleeping, let her hair fall heavy like water dripping from a rarely used faucet, the self unmade overnight, stubbornly clinging to symmetry of stanzas, moving us away from that overnight train from Eastern to Western Europe. Cutaways of train platforms stretching out before the eye like sunburned skin. From wheat fields to cities, the private sleeping car my mother procured rocked us to sleep like a cradle to a hum of parting, moving in and out of memory. I wasn't old enough to live for myself. The Uffizzi's made up air, smothering her visitors. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stella. Yeah, wow, all this wonderful language. I was thinking of the Tongva, actually. It's all one sort of can do these days. Quentin mentioned the Tongva. And, of course, when you think about them, they were poets. They were oral, performative poets, right? And like us tonight. And it's nice to think that, maybe in some Jungian sense, at least, we are their descendants. So I'm going to introduce our last poet, but before I do that, just to say thank you again for coming, and hang around afterwards to buy books, get books signed. David Quiroz is a brand new poet. I think we're publishing his first book, if I'm not mistaken. I'll tell you a little bit about his background. He came here with his brother and his mother to the United States from Michoacan, Mexico, in 1995. And after a time in LA public schools, he completed his bachelor's degree at Cal State Northridge. Then went on to pursue a master's in English with an emphasis on creative writing. At the same time, he has served as a public school, middle school instructor, teaching 7th grade English at PUC Nueva Esperanza Charter Academy for 5 years. Okay, and as an undocumented first-generation American and first-generation college graduate, David was re-energized after each political battle against undocumented people. Upon receiving DACA, David utilized every opportunity, and Dreamer Paradise, his first book, tells the story of one such dreamer. The author, Carmen Rita Wong, says of this about Dreamer Paradise, quote, "This is great, important work. It is powerful, poignant, and yearning for solid ground. It is to be revisited, to be honored." David Quiroz.
No matter how simple it might appear at first glance, every translation is thick with linguistic choices that carry political and aesthetic implications. Some of these choices, like leaving certain cultural specific terms in the language of the original, are immediately visible. Some others are not. Certain terms, for example, demand to be left in their original form. These are often described as untranslatables. Witches by Brenda Lozano. DACA, noun, deferred action for childhood arrivals. American, human, person, not an illegal alien. Sometimes called dreamers. Obama, 2012. Tuxpan, Michoacan. Even my road has roads. In the open, I see the aloe that soothes my skin turn to dust. The sun's rays invade my dreams and call them unholy. Erase me, remember me, erase me. Past, present, future, this path doesn't care to remember me. I am looking for a reason to write this poem and a dream. I am left without dreaming. I have no more dreams, butterflies, flowers, water, or air. I can't go back. 580,000 Americans. 580,000 Americans, and I am one of them. I misplaced my footprints on this arduous way. Where our mothers and fathers' skin? Where our work gear and uniforms? Where our part-time shoes? Where work masks and assemble? Holding hands is the only health care we have. We pay our dues. Punch in, punch out, unavailable. The hands of my ancestors guide me. They hold me tightly, they hold me. I believe in the world that looks at me and thinks of me. One day, America will think of me. I am dreaming again. Here to stay. To the confused, seekers of truth, to those holding the signs, go back to your country. What is your fear? It has many faces and knows many dreams. The reclamation of my liberty, happiness, and justice, my justice. To be powerful in my DACA-loving self, an added political connotation, my DACA. An encapsulation of my politics, my flags. I am home. Tears. I surrender my voice for submission. I open my vault and unleash my oath to prove I am an American citizen just like you. I surrender my politics and ask you to encapsulate my loyalty on a government-issued identity, my government. I surrender my Mexico. I surrender my Spanish. I surrender my maíz, frijoles, nopales. Don't mistake my poetry for tears. I am not broken. Don't mistake my poetry and call me ungrateful. I've earned my seat at this table. I-821D screening. Please tell the truth or your application can be denied. 1. Were you under 31 as of June 15, 2012, when DACA program was first announced? Yes. 2. Did you enter the United States before turning 16? Yes. 3. Have you continuously lived in the United States since June 15, 2007, up to the present? Yes. 4. Were you physically present in the United States on June 15, 2012, and when requesting DACA, can you prove it? Yes. 5. Are you currently enrolled in school, have graduated from high school, or have obtained a certificate of completion? Yes. 6. Have you been convicted of a felony or a significant misdemeanor offense? No. 7. Are you a threat to national security for public safety? No. On your next appointment, I need evidence that supports your claims along with the money order or a personal check for $465 made out to the Department of Homeland Security. So I'm going to read now from Dreamer Love. Tortillas. I should have bought handmade. I was desperately looking for something to accompany my love. The recipe tells lies. You can pair this with anything. I thought it was you plus me, me plus you. We just needed warm tortillas wrapped in your palms, my palms, together. So I kept looking. I kept walking these medium-sized aisles of your favorite tienda. The best tortillas are handmade and can only be bought at the Superior Grocers down Laurel Canyon in Pacoima. Message read. I picked up Guerrero instead. What's the difference? They're just tortillas. Fat girls need love. We lay around like wet seals on Danny's bed. Adriana lays her heavy next to mine and asks, "So what, David?" As if I had an ocean of secrets. Daniela is quiet at times. She hides her heavy with a pillow or two. I know she has Tinder on her phone. We talk for hours, and every so often, one of them cries. We share a yarn we braided using threes and made a chain as strong as metal. My fat is better than yours, one of them says. Or both, I forget. We are from eating just to kick it and eating just to eat. We snack on Cheetos and Takis and hot tea for digestion. My fat is stronger than yours, one of them says. Or both, I forget. Enséñame a bailar. So just for context, this one, I was going through a really bad breakup, and I was literally at the laundry mat. And I was crying, like hysterically, too. It was so embarrassing. Anyways, you leaned in for a kiss right next to the bar at Rocco's Vijo, the only place I was worthy of your lips, right next to the strippers and drunks, right next to the strangers who wouldn't think twice about the ring on your finger. Never tell a dreamer how much you love them. Never FaceTime them on their birthday and speak of hypotheticals. Please don't lie to a dreamer like me, because loving you in Spanish was not the same as loving you in English. It was listening to José José, Pedro Infante, Bronco, Los Bukis, and Amanda Miguel on your abuelito's old Panasonic. I loved you more in Spanish. The party was loud with music and doubt, so I kept playing our romance in my head until losing you to the crowd. Why did you kiss me, my love? All I have left is this poem, a cascade of loss, and $1.63 on my laundry card. My love is better than yours. Okay, threes. The third time he cheated on you, I reaped the confidence. Yes, I said that right. The third time he cheated on you, I reaped the confidence from the soil of my heart and told him, you are my soulmate. Do you still feel that way? He asked in return. You can tell he was not in complete shock. He even puffed his chest like a rooster in heat. If you could do anything right now, what would you like to do? Right there, in the corner of blank, I swallowed him, all of him. The second time he cheated on you was at blank park. I picked him up in my new car. He reeked of John's liquor store, the only liquor store on Van Nuys Boulevard and Pacoima that stays open for thirsty man past 2 a.m. He wore short shorts and swollen eyes. We sat on the empty bleachers next to ghosts and nosy trees. I sat one row below him, ready to worship my king. I didn't put him in my mouth that time, but I can tell you every detail and count every vein. The first time he cheated on you with me was via FaceTime. It was also the first time we played Truth or Dare, a game we'd entertained for over 3 years. His desire for attention oozed through his iPhone as he showed me his new pants. They fit you snugly, I replied. He knew what he was doing when he started to undress. He knew I was staring at the outline of his penis. Your turn, he said. Come for me. Bust. I had him more than 3 times. 3 others had him before me. How does it feel to wonder? And I'm going to end with true or false. 1, anyone can apply for DACA. False. 2, the program will entice criminals to come to America. False. 3, it is a pathway to citizenship. False. 4, it is a free program that hardworking Americans pay for. False. 5, DACA recipients put our nation at risk of crime, violence, and terrorism. False. 6, DACA recipients do not pay taxes. Girl, false. False. 7, you must reveal your DACA status to anyone who asks. False. 8, DACA people are not real Americans. False. 9, only Mexicans are DACA. False. 10, over 75% of American citizens are in favor of DACA and favor of a permanent solution to the immigration crisis. True. Statements mentioned above are statements I have heard people say in open conversation, on the news, commentators, professionals, anti-DACA folk, in front of me and behind my back. Thank you.